This video is a potential quick fix for a decor oven that has a dim display. It worked for me, it may or may not work for you. It doesn't require soldering, just a bit of disassembly, and I'll detail the whole thing in this video. My oven specifically is a Decor ERD48. It's about 20 years old. The display has been slowly dimming to the point where we can hardly read it. This is the display after the fix. I'd heard online that the controller board for the display may be the fault, so I looked up purchasing a replacement board, but Decor don't make them any longer. Thank you, Decor, that's really helpful. It's a very expensive oven, so you would think that they would still offer them, but they don't. Anyway, the next best solution was to replace the capacitors on the board, as some people online felt that the capacitors would dry out over time, especially as they're in a very warm environment. So I tried disassembling the oven to get to the board. Before we get started, you should turn off the power to the oven at the main circuit breaker for the house and confirm that the oven is off, and turn off the gas. There's something like 240 volts and 20 amps going to this oven, which can kill you. So we'll be going near high voltages, so if this is something you're not comfortable with, then you may want to get someone qualified to do this work. Anyway, there's a metal panel between the display and the lower ovens that you can remove with screws on the lower edge here and also above here. This allows you to at least see the board, but you can't get access, so I don't really recommend removing this panel for the fix, but at least it gives you an idea about where the display circuit board is. To gain access properly, first you need to remove the metal stovetop, then remove each of the burners like this. The part you see me twisting off is very hard to remove. There's a special tool you can buy to remove it, but as I didn't have one, I used a screwdriver and a hammer to coax it off. This might damage it, I don't know, so I'd recommend using the proper tool. I'll see if I can find a link to the tool, and I'll put it in the description if I can find a link to it. Once that's off, you can pull the burner off. You'll also need to disconnect the igniter, which I did, as you can see, by pulling the cable out. Once all 6 burners are removed, you can lift the whole black section off. I don't have photographs of this, unfortunately. Underneath the black section around here is a silver access panel held on with 6 or so screws. There's also wires going through it at the bottom and the igniter wires at the top. I left the lower wires in place and fed the igniter wires through the panel so that I could hinge the whole panel up towards me. This will give you access to the display control board, as you can see here. The display control board, I believe, is the board on the bottom. My goal here originally was to work out which capacitors are on the board and then order them. I started removing some of the connectors so I could potentially remove the display control board, but it quickly became clear it was very hard to remove. So after removing this connector and these 3 wires, I abandoned the project and reassembled everything, admitting defeat. But I believe the mere act of removing and connecting these connectors brought the display back to life. I'm guessing that there's some oxidation on the metal connectors, which was cleaned somewhat by disconnecting and reconnecting them, so it may help to use some deoxit on the connectors to help with this process. Reassembly of the oven is the reverse of what I said, and now I have a Decor oven with a display that seems perfectly fine. So I hope this helps with your Decor oven woes. Thanks for watching and good luck.